the journey that tomorrow will bring. So be sure you're always ready to face anything. Every move you make, every step you take, yeah, they will be on this map you've made. You think you're ready to see what could lie beyond the land and the sea, always shining bright, so difficult but charming. Within the heavy rain, dreams in a hurricane. Now it's time to shake things up and go. One dream, one wish. If you wanna chase your dream, go for the knockout. Over the top.
Hello everybody, it is I, TDI Fan 2023, and welcome to another movie ranking video. Now, I know you're probably wondering, why am I uploading this on my main channel and not on my second channel? Well, one, I've already uploaded my 2 other movie ranking videos here, and you guys will find out soon enough, like, why I'm doing this. Anyways, in this video, with the release of The Boy and the Heron, I will be ranking the 21 Studio Ghibli films that I have watched from worst to best. Of course, there are 24 films in total, about 24 films, meaning that there are 3 that I have not seen. Tales from Earthsea, My Neighbors the Yamadas, and Earwig and the Witch. Why I haven't seen these films? Well, I have heard that 2 of them are really bad, and the other one I just didn't have time for, or even bothered to. Maybe I'll see them in the future. For those of you who have seen them, let me know if they are worth watching. Well, with that said, let's start off with my rankings. Note that this is all just my personal opinion, so feel free to let me know what your top Studio Ghibli films are. With that said, let's get on with my list. Yeah, this is just one of those Ghibli films that I never really cared for. The animation style is pretty unique compared to the other films in the studio, but the plot is also pretty weak compared to the other films. I never really connected with any of the characters, and it's just a film that I think is just alright in Ghibli standards. Which is odd because this other films that I've seen from the same director of this film are much better and more complex. But yeah, nothing much to say. Porco, the score of Porco is pretty good, but Ghibli pretty much nails it with all their films when it comes to this score. With that said, Porco is dead last on my list, and yeah, let's move on to the next one. Coming in at number 20, we have Ocean Waves, one of the more recent films that I've watched out of all the films on this list, and compared to the other slice of life Ghibli films, this one just doesn't really hit. The main female lead is just annoying and is a bit hard to try to understand. Also, this film is the only Ghibli film where I had to watch in sub since there wasn't a dub for it. And yes, I do watch Ghibli films in dub, so yeah. Which I did not mind at all, but it kind of takes me off since, I'm not that used to the sub. And pretty much what everyone else says that have seen from this film, they just don't really like it. The dynamic between the main male lead and his friend, the 2 people shown in this picture, is much more entertaining than the 2 main leads together. And at least this film is short, so however, this is still probably one of the downsides to how this turned out. With that said, Ocean Waves will be taking the 20th spot on this list.
Arietti. That's a beautiful name.
Next up, we have The Secret World of Arietti. This film has, charm like the others, but that charm isn't as bright. The cast of characters we have aren't that interesting, the plot is pretty basic, and it all takes place in one home for like 95% of the entire film. Not as good as the 8 out of 10 Ghibli films, but it certainly isn't a bad film. Nothing much to say with this film. It's pretty average, to be honest, compared to the other Ghibli films, and that is why it is at this spot on the list. Nothing much left to say.
But I had no idea my crystal was so incredibly powerful.
Next up, we have Castle in the Sky. Hayao Miyazaki is, of course, if you don't know yet, he's definitely my favorite director from Studio Ghibli. But I will have to admit that this film is one of his weakest. The plot is pretty simple, the 2 main characters aren't that interesting, but I did actually like the castle that was in the sky, which is pretty much the main topic of this entire film. It was nice to look at, as well as knowing the whole mythology behind this castle and its past and all that stuff. The villains, however, are pretty weak when it comes to, their personality and such. And the score is pretty good, but that's pretty much it. Not that special for me, which is why it is at this spot on this list.
It seems the whole country is eager to get rid of the old and make way for the new.
Next up, at number 17, we have From Up on Poppy Hill. This film is directed by the son of Hayao Miyazaki, and from what I've seen, he doesn't really have a good rep in the business. Maybe because the two other films that he directed are arguably the worst films to come out of the studio. But this one does not compare to those two. Well, at least to me. I haven't seen the other two, but from what I heard, they're pretty bad. This slice of life is pretty good for what it is. The score is really good. The two main leads aren't that memorable, but not horrible. And the plot of how they connect, which is pretty much what carries them throughout the entire film. Of course, this one isn't perfect, but it is slightly better than the ones I've listed before, which is why it is at this spot on the list.
If things don't work out, you can always come home.
And come back a bear?
Next up, we have Kikis Delivery Service, another semi-slice of life from Miyazaki, with a bit of magic, of course. This one is a bit more grounded compared to the other Miyazaki films, but that doesn't stop this film from being good. The journey of Kiki doing whatever she can to, be the best at delivering in this business, of course, is very inspiring and relatable. The animation is pretty great for an early 90s flick, and the side characters aren't that great, but with how whimsical this film is, they don't drag this film from being fun and exciting. And it's honestly just a really fun movie. If you want to watch a film that's just fun and entertaining, this is the one for you. And that is why this film is at number 16 on this list.
I am Baron Humbert von Gickingen, and I have come for Haru.
Next up, we have The Cat Returns. I did not expect myself to like this film. I had pretty low expectations before watching it. But after watching it, I liked it quite a lot. It's one of the funniest films for sure in Studio Ghibli. The main character isn't that great, but it's the side characters and the villain that carries this film for me, as well as the humor, of course. The animation takes me out a bit, however, but other than that, it's fun and over the top, which is great for a film like this. The plot isn't anything special, but it's still a good and enjoyable film, and that is why it's at number 15 on my list. Next up, we have My Neighbor Totoro. This film is very bright and is all over the place, which helps it a lot. This film doesn't really have a story, but with all the shenanigans that the two main characters and Totoro go through, it doesn't really need a story. It's one of those films where you don't pay attention to the plot, rather they pay attention to how it makes you feel. And this film had me grinning throughout the entire film. It's fun and breathtaking, which is something that Miyazaki is truly a master at. It's very fun, it's very joyful, it just puts a smile on your face. And that is why it's at number 14 on this list.
Ponyo, 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 fishy in the sea.
Coming up next, we have Ponyo, the first ever Studio Ghibli film that I have seen. And it still holds up. It's charming, it's fun, the animation is gorgeous to look at, the scenery and everything. The two main characters are whimsical and entertaining to see what the shenanigans they get to. And the plot isn't that strong, but the themes that it tackles are pretty heavy, and they handle it quite well. It's another Ghibli film that puts a smile on my face, and that's why it's at number 13 on this list. It's a very fun film.
Anyone hear us? In my dreams, I saw a girl just like you.
Next up, we have When Marne Was There. This is the one Ghibli film that doesn't really feel like one. It's pretty dark, yet the light film at the same time. Its story is nothing out of the ordinary, but the tropes that it chooses to use can hit you right at the heart. It's quite emotion heavy, and it's another beautiful looking film. The characters aren't anything special, and the ending is pretty overwhelming. But it's still a beautiful and heartfelt film that should be seen by Ghibli fans, which is why this film takes the number 12 spot on this list.
She never woke up.
Coming up at number 11, we have one of the most depressing and heartbreaking films out there. Grave of the Fireflies is one devastating film about a boy and his little sister just trying to get through amidst of a war. What's really more devastating is how this is practically based on a true story, which means that the events that occurred in this film have actually happened. Being at number 11 doesn't mean that it's not great. It's a really true masterpiece. Just that it's just too much for me to bear revisiting, and I've seen this film twice in 1 year. If you plan on seeing this film, definitely go in blind to let this film really sink in. What's left to say? It's a perfect film about what devastating lives that these people had to go through during the war, and it's just really depressing and sad, but also such a beautiful film, and that's why it's at number 11 on this list.
But I don't understand. You could have polluted the entire Earth.
Top 10, baby, and starting it off is one of Ghibli's first films, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. This film is breathtaking for an 80s animated feature. It's about a girl in the outer world who's trying to end a war while also protecting the nature of their world. Yeah, that's a lot for one to try to accomplish, even with this being their first film. I think it's one of their best. The plot and backgrounds are great to see. The music is also top-notch. Joe Hisaishi is a legend with music. Other than that, this film is a spectacular and should definitely be seen by fans of the studio. And that's why it's starting off the top 10 of this list. Number 9, we have Whisper of the Heart, a film about an aspiring writer who only wants to achieve what she thinks she's destined to do for the rest of her life, only that there are a few obstacles ahead for her. This film is perfect for those who are not sure of what they want to do or what they think would be a good fit for their career. This film shows the process of taking the next step, the next leap, as well as the ups and downs of it, which can be relatable to us all. Doing what we want to do won't be an easy task. There will be some highs and some lows, and this film demonstrates that perfectly. We see the two leads of this film destined to achieve their goals by the next time they see each other. Also, this film is more grounded, which I think helps this film a lot, and not every Ghibli film needs to be over the top. And with that said, it's just a really great film, almost perfect, I'd say, and that is why it's at the number 9 spot on this list. Next up, we have Porco Rosso. This film is fun, charming, and adventurous. The main character is a pilot who's also a pig, who gets into a lot of trouble with bandits and pirates. Yeah, this film has a lot to take in, but it's still one of my personal favorites of the studio. The score is superb, the colors and visuals are outstanding for an early 90s film, and the characters aren't boring, and it all ends in a dogfight, which is intense. And it's a story of how one may see themselves, Porco being a pig, which could just be a metaphor and something that relates to his past, which for some of us may be how we see ourselves in this world. Nothing much left to say. This film is amazing, and if you haven't seen it, you definitely should. It's just really good, one of my favorites, and that is why it's at number 8 on this list.
I just want to create beautiful haircuts.
Coming up at number 7, we have Miyazaki's recent film, prior to The Boy and the Heron, The Wind Rises. This film is pretty much just like Whisper of the Heart. The Wind Rises is about a man who wants to follow his dreams of making airplanes, and this film shows his journey of making that perfect air fighter for Japan during the war. We see his highs and lows, also his successes and failures, which is another inspiring film as it shows the viewer that there will be successes and failures. That's just the process of wanting to achieve your goals. Not only that, but with its stunning animation, clever writing by Miyazaki himself, and with this initially being his send-off film, it's quite a way to go out, which is why it's at number 7 on this list.
Why can't the humans in the forest live together? Why can't we stop this fighting now?
Up next, we have Princess Mononoke. This is the Ghibli film with, of course, the most action. And for a 1997 film, the animation is chef's kiss. We see our main character struggling with a terrible disease and seeking the forest spirit to get rid of it, which leads to him getting involved in a war between humans and nature itself. This is one of the few Ghibli films that represents naturalism, or naturism, I should say, and I think it's their best out of it. The score is out of this world, the plot is fascinating and complex. It just glues your eyes onto the screen for every second. Also, the few scenes that is laminated its PG-13 rating are very cool and memorable, also pretty graphic. And nothing much left to say, this film is really good, one of Miyazaki's best, and that is why it's at the number 6 spot on this list.
Perhaps my 5th grade self is trying to tell me to find a new way to fly.
Starting off our top 5, my top 5 I should say, we have Only Yesterday. I did not expect to like this film as much as I did. It's a movie about a girl who revisits her past when she was in 5th grade, and we get to see how her life was as a kid, as well as how her life turned out to be as an adult. It's practically a slice of life film. Nothing much to like, right? Wrong. This film is such a perfect film. It doesn't feel like it's dragging at all, and it's another film where I can relate to the characters, especially the main character, as well as seeing what they're going through. And it's just beautifully animated. Isao Takahata sure knocked it out of the park with this film, and that's why it's at number 5 on this list.
If disobedience to His Majesty is considered a crime punishable by death, well then, the only choice is to kill me.
Next up, we have The Tale of Princess Kaguya. This film is just breathtaking. The animation is out of this world, the story is very endearing and depressing at the same time, and that ending got me in tears. The music is great, everything about this film is great. If you have not seen it yet, you definitely should. It's one of Ghibli's masterpieces. There's so much to like and so much to, nothing at all to dislike about it. It's a no-brainer. Why is it number 4 on this list? It's so good. It's probably Ghibli's most beautifully animated film. It's just a masterpiece, one of my favorite films of all time, and that's why it's at number 4 on this list. Definitely watch it if you get the chance to. That's right, coming at number 3 is the most recent Studio Ghibli film, The Boy and the Heron. I just saw this movie, as I'm recording it, not even an hour ago, I just saw this film. And it is just as great as everyone says. Miyazaki does it again. This film follows a boy who is looking for his quote-unquote mother. Such a simple premise, right? Well, this movie is far from that. It's magical, it's breathtaking, it's everything you'd expect coming out of Hayao Miyazaki, and way more. The animation is gorgeous, the music is a spectacle, it's so great. And honestly, if you get the chance, you definitely should check this one out in theaters. It is great. It's going to be an experience that I will never forget. And also, I'm still debating if this is my favorite film of the year. I mean, it's that good. It really is. And also, with its stacked cast, Robert Pattinson, Dave Bautista, William Dafoe, come on. With that cast, that's one reason alone why you should definitely check this film out. It is great. It's a masterpiece. You definitely got to watch it. And that is why it's at number 3 on this list.
They say that the best blaze brightest when circumstances are at their worst.
Yeah, but no one really believes that.
Taking the runner-up spot, we have Howl's Moving Castle. This is such a magical film. The animation is spectacular, the music is spectacular, everything about this film is spectacular. I just get goosebumps every time I think about this film. The characters are great, the world building is pretty damn great, and much more. What's left to say about this film? It's a Hayao Miyazaki masterpiece. But there's just one film that I think outstands them all, and I wholeheartedly believe it's my all-time favorite film. And I mean, it's the only film left that I haven't talked about, so I think you guys already know what it is. But Howl's Moving Castle is such a great film. If you haven't seen it yet, you definitely should. It is so good. Freaking Christian Bale's in this film, so of course that should be another reason why you should watch this film. It's great. It's a masterpiece. But now it's time to talk about my number 1 favorite film of Studio Ghibli.
Since you've met someone, you never really forget them.
I mean, come on now. Spirited Away is obviously taking the top spot. Not only is Spirited Away my favorite animated film of all time, but this is also arguably my favorite film of all time. What is not to love about Spirited Away? It's magical, it's unbelievable, it's Spirited Away. The music is good, more than just good. The music is great, the animation is very, very great for 2001, and the characters are memorable and recognizable. These are some of the most memorable and recognizable characters in the entire Studio Ghibli. And there are so many things I can say about this film, but I like to keep it brief. Spirited Away is one of those films that just hits. There is not another movie like this one. Arguably the best Studio Ghibli film, and it is my personal favorite. With that said, Spirited Away is undoubtedly the best Studio Ghibli film, and it takes the #1 spot on this list. Hayao Miyazaki, I don't know if you're going to ever be able to surpass this film if you decide to make another film, but this film is just your magnum opus. It is a masterpiece. Such a wonderful film. If you have not seen it, if you shockingly have not seen this film at all yet, you have to. You won't be sorry. Such a great film. And of course, that's why it's at #1 on this list. And that is it. That's officially my list, my rankings of the 21 Studio Ghibli films that I've watched. Now, of course, this Studio Ghibli is just one of those studios that rarely misses. Like, there's only 3 or 4 movies out of the entire studio that I did not like, out of the ones I've seen. And out of 21 films, that is such an achievement. And also even their recent film, even now, they still make great films. Something that Pixar and other studios are struggling with, to say the least. And that is why Studio Ghibli film, the entire Studio Ghibli, is probably, right now it's my second favorite studio. I just cannot put it over Pixar. Pixar's too nostalgic for me. But who knows, maybe in the future, once I'm more mature and older, I'll probably change my mind. But Studio Ghibli is definitely one of the best film studios out there. If you haven't seen any of these films, I definitely recommend you to check some of these out. Of course, my top choice would be Spirited Away. I really wish that was my very first Ghibli film, but it wasn't. I barely saw this film. My first time seeing this film was 2 years ago. So, that's saying a lot. But it's still a masterpiece of a film. Studio Ghibli has so many masterpieces. You should definitely check out these films, especially The Boy and the Heron, which is recently out. It's out in theaters right now. If you get the chance to, definitely check it out. It is great. You will love it. And what's left to say? Studio Ghibli is just one of those studios that you cannot seem to hate. Well, some of their films, yes, but mostly it's just one of those studios that is beloved by all who have seen their films, who have seen what they make, and it's just going to, once the studio's gone, it's going to go out with a bang. I can definitely see it. And that's it for my ranking. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more rankings. I'm thinking of doing DreamWorks next. I'm planning to have a whole DreamWorks marathon starting in January, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more content, and I'll see you all in the next video. This is TDI Fan 2023 signing off. Peace, and have a great day.